driven, garage queen. Welcome to Sports and Touring, and you join us today with my friend James of JM on Cars and JM and Friends. Now, we have concocted a little bit of a surprise for my son because this week is his birthday. Now, the main surprise is one that James has organised with the help of Tim, aka Shmee150. Now, we're actually taking Damani to the Shmuseum. I thought it might be good if we went there in both the 370Z Nismo and the R8 GT Spyder. So I've arranged for Damani to drive the R8 today. So what we're going to do now is we're going into the facility where it's stored at Hilton and Moss and give him a little bit of a surprise under the guise that we're showing James around the venue because he's never seen it before. I'm really excited to surprise him. Are you excited?
I am.
I'm very excited. James, you look excited. Not very. Anyway, let's go inside and show James around.
They may be blind to me, just wait and see. Just wait and see. Just wait and see.
So Damani, you said we got a surprise for you.
Yes.
We're going somewhere with some very cool cars. And I thought, even though the Z is quite cool, Ashley, could you do the honours, please?
Just wait and see. Just wait and see.
Oh, we're taking the GT.
You're taking the GT.
Hey! That's fun, thank you. Very excited.
This is where the car is normally stored. The reason I store it here is for a few reasons. One, because I like to get a few bits and pieces of maintenance done, getting the MOT done. They just take care of everything for me. I just don't have the time, if I'm honest. And then I just come and pick the car up when I want to take it out and enjoy it. Or in this case, let him enjoy it. So anyway, I think we need to hit the road and head on to our next destination, which we've already told you where it is, but currently he has absolutely no idea.
Oh, she sounds good. I can't wait to go through the Hatfield Tunnel.
How is it getting to see your own car rolling?
It looks so good. It sounds so good!
They sound good.
Right, now we have to actually get to where we're heading. And you know where we're going. He doesn't. Hopefully it's a nice surprise. I'm pretty sure it will be.
Hello.
Hello.
How's it going? How you doing? Welcome. How you doing? Nice to meet you.
Hi Tim, I'm Anthony.
Nice to meet you too. How you doing?
All good?
You know me already. I do know that.
Thanks so much for having us here. I know how busy you must be. I guess it's not what you know, it's who you know. Thanks, James. Awesome. We've actually met before. You won't recognise us, it was a long time ago.
I was about this tour. It was at
Wilton.
House.
Oh, Wilton Classics and Supercars.
Yes, you had the Blue 12C and
2014.
the Morgan. Yeah.
Yep.
That was a fun day.
Oh, I'll see if I can dig out that picture.
So you know the drill. You know what's going to happen here.
We do.
You gotta look that way when I press the magic buttons.
Oh,
Oh wow.
that's amazing. Oh my god.
How you feeling?
Okay, this is taking it all in.
I told you we were going to go somewhere with cool cars.
Yeah, you did.
He was like, is it Harlow Jap Autos? I'm like, no.
No.
Somewhere.
So,
See, I've seen this loads of times in the virtual world. This is like
From screen to real.
first things first, we've got to have a look around because on the JM and Friends channel, what we're going to be doing is Damani is going to be giving his opinion on what would he have. I probably think he would say all of them, but we're going to give you a limit. We're going to give you a limit. And we're going to talk about that over on the JM and Friends channel. So first, what we're going to do here is go around and just learn a little bit about all of the cars in here before we narrow it down to the few that Damani particularly likes.
Might as well go from left to right. Let's start from this side, I guess.
On paper, right, these are two-seater hybrid Ferrari supercars. So you'd think, like, same. The reality is that the SF90 feels like this incredibly premium, high-end, heavy weight to the steering, like real quality to it. Whereas the 296 is set up so much more to be about the character, like much twitchier on the steering and the throttle pedal, and just much more of a B-road, go out for a fun drive. I actually think in many ways this is quite similar to driving a Lotus. Like it feels quite small and it really wants to go quickly down a lane. Whereas you get in the SF90 and you get in it and you're like, this is serious. This is a cool bit of car.
I've actually heard a lot of people saying that this has a slightly better driver feel. Like you just feel a bit more like you can have a bit more fun in this. This is so, like, from what I've been told, like this is like one of those cars that you can get in and you feel like you can have a bit more fun with it, especially within the legal restrictions.
That is completely true. The 296, okay, it's 830 horsepower, right? So let's balance things a little bit.
Funny, the baby Ferrari is now 800.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
But it's completely true. If you just want to go out and have a drive, they've done a brilliant job of engineering the character of this, that like mid-range it's really fun. It makes some lovely sounds. You don't feel like you have to be at the red line. And then there's that whole cliche, oh, but it's only a V6. When you've heard it, it's nice.
Well, you drove one and you said that you were shocked by the sound.
I was expecting it just to be a bit dull, but it's got its own unique character, and it is like a half a V12 sort of sound. Yeah, and it's got that scream to it. But I would agree, yes, definitely. My experience of jumping into that, I felt like I could just put my foot down straight away. It was actually a little bit scary how good it was. And then once I put it into qualifying mode, I just felt totally at ease. It squirms as you're going up the road, even in the dry, but it is an absolutely incredible car. And in fact, if you've watched JM on Cars review, then you'd have seen me driving up and down the road because he was behind the camera while I was behind the wheel.
What colour is this? Because it's like a interesting like reddy orange. It's called Rosso Dino.
Okay.
And I went for it on this because the 296 in many ways is like the original Dino. It's the baby 6-cylinder Ferrari. I thought it would suit the shapes really nicely because a lot of the design of the 296, the arches, the floating bridge over the top of the rear deck, are all Dino design elements. And I was so pleased that it didn't look completely, like, you always worry when you pick a bright color that it's, people will be like, oh, but why didn't you just do Rosso Corsa, the safe and more sensible option? But no, people have loved it. I love it. It's very different for me, but the result and nice dual tone grey interior kind of fits it and fits the vibe of the car, I think, really well.
This is one of my dream cars. This is an amazing car, and I love the colour.
Yeah. Well, these are two that I've driven a lot. This I've got about 20,000 miles on it now.
Brilliant.
That's got about 25,000.
But that's one of the things I've always liked about you, though, because you buy your cars to use them and enjoy them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's not just a, you know.
War wounds happen. Look here, little war wound on the front carbon splitter.
Oh yeah.
But that's not a particularly expensive part to replace. It's about £600. Oh. So relative for a carbon front splitter, it's not particularly expensive. I mean, it's obviously not great, but the fun thing about it is that happened when I was driving home from watching the Abu Dhabi F1.
No.
And I love the fact that when you stop and think about that, right? This car that's here in Europe, driving home from the Abu Dhabi Yas Marina circuit, like I'm like, it's a cool war. Like, how does that happen? How does that make sense? No, it's been around the world. It's been to the Middle East. It's been to the United States. It's epic. I love this thing, the GT Black Series.
What else have we got? We've got the...
Favorite car here, the Mackie.
Yes.
It serves a purpose. Great daily.
We had the all-wheel drive standard range for a week.
Our first real long-term electric car experience. Within like one of our first days, we had proper like range anxiety because we went to one charging station, the charger didn't work. We went to the second one and it was closed. And then we were like, we've just got enough miles to make it to the next one. We were like eco-miling it the whole way there, and we just made it. I just love these wheels as well.
It's more of those than it is of these.
Very rare.
One of
Yeah,
50.
but this is the
Heritage.
How is it? The Heritage Edition.
It's the winter beater, despite being a super rare, super limited, super valuable little hot hatch.
Yeah.
Well, seeing as you've got quite a few super rare, super limited cars in here, it might be the right choice. But very, very cool car. I also remember when you were over in the States, you ended up cracking one of your wheels, didn't you?
Yeah, I've been through a few of those.
A few?
A few of those, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it happens. If you drive it hard.
That's the territory with that kind of thing, though, isn't it?
Big, heavy car. The wheels don't have an unlimited lifespan, and I've done quite a few miles with it. That's a theme of this garage. Everything's done quite a few miles. Cars are for driving.
I
Get them
love
out
how
there.
it's international miles as well. It's like,
Yeah,
instead of just going out there and getting a car for out there, it's like you're just like, no, I want my car, ship it over. That's the
One of the cool things is that 4 of the cars that are permanently resident here, like not the cars that I have in the US, have been to the US, which is kind of cool.
The AMG, the Zenvo,
The 4GT.
4GT.
Yeah. That's the OG though.
Oh, this was when, I remember when I first saw your channel, this was the car you had.
He must have been like 10 years old.
Oh, yeah, it was a long time ago.
I try and drive every car every now and then just to make sure everything's good. You find things, right? This is a 15-year-old Aston, and it's behaving like a 15-year-old Aston. You know, some slight paint corrosion on the mirror arms and those kind of things, which you only find when you go out and you just play and touch and figure things. I actually got super inspired by that from a collector I went to visit a while back, who every weekend takes out every car. He has a big collection of mostly classics and writes notes for his in-house mechanics. So from every car, he'll leave a notepad with what needs to be looked at on that car. Because if you keep on top of it, it means you don't get any big surprises, or you don't have any time where you feel that car is a complete state. But as you start to get a little bit older with the 1M, the Clio, and the Aston, of course, things start to go wrong a little bit more frequently. Like, it's part of life.
Speaking of the 1M, I love these cars. I feel like they're starting to get a lot more love now, but I feel like they never got enough love when they were first a thing. And obviously now that this is like, the M2 has become this, and it's just such a great platform, and it just looks so amazing. The proper arches and...
What year is it?
11, 12,
Okay.
11.
All right, see what you mean.
Yeah, I just love these things.
Different cars for different purposes. Like, people often say to me, like, why would I ever drive one of these in a garage with a bunch of supercars? But the thing is, when you go out down a nice British country lane, you don't want a big, wide, firm supercar. You want something like this, or like that, or like that, to go and enjoy.
Or like this! Or like this, yeah, absolutely.
That's the OG, not replica, but
Yeah,
equivalent.
Exactly. That's exactly the same as the first car I had when I was a teenager. You know, that was my get out on the road and enjoy discovering the world. And I think your first car is something you always cherish. And like, it was the first time you had the freedom to go somewhere, go and do something. My original first car, whoever owned it 15 years after me had a crash with it, written it off. Somehow we managed to find it, track it down from a scrapyard, and I own the cube of metal that was my actual first car.
Wow.
But as a tribute, I bought this car and put the same plate on it that mine had, and it's identical. So, you know, when you look down a spec list, it's not got anything extra or missing anything that my first car had. It's the same. So I was like, right, it's only worth £1,000. It's got an expired MOT. I don't really take it out for anything. Well, I don't take it out for anything at all now that it's got no MOT, but it can sit there and it can kind of remember that that's where it started before being all of this.
Now, isn't that funny? Driven.
Everything's driven.
Garage queen.
So true. I've never heard anybody put it like that. Yeah. I did this as a kind of throwback, because obviously who doesn't like the flagship version of the first car they owned? The Clio V6. Not a lot of people actually know what this is outside of like car guys.
Yeah.
Obviously engine in the back, which is the crazy thing that somebody in France decided they'd go ahead and make this, but they did. There aren't a lot of them. They've gone up in value like mad recently. This was a car that I bought in a particularly bad state. We did everything.
Yeah.
Color change, obviously all the kind of upgrades you would do, lightweight flywheel, clutch, suspension, brakes, etc., to make it into something that to drive is so good. It's so good.
Right.
Over this side,
Over this side, this is
it's a bit of a hodgepodge,
a
right?
friend's car.
This is Max Cooper, the founder of Gumball3000.
Yes,
This
indeed.
is his Xj220 S, the S, one of only 9. Really cool. A lot of people come in here and they go straight to that.
Yeah.
The crazy thing though is Xj220's never appreciated in value. Like, you look back at anything else from that era, F50s, McLaren F1s of course, but these for some reason are still less than they cost new back then. Really? Yeah, despite 30 years of inflation, which is mad, because what it is was the fastest car in the world at one point. This is the super rare lightweight spec, you know, lightweight bodywork, near on 700 horsepower out of it. Sounds amazing. I don't get it. I don't get why they never went bonkers, but hey,
Yeah.
it lives here. It's been resident for a while.
And we saw this when we didn't gatecrash the Gumball3000 in London at all. There's no video on our channel proving that. Now, I'm interested in this because I've been following your journey with it, which has been a challenge.
2 flat tyres in a week on 1 road trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, on separate occasions.
But
Not good. Both rears, 23-inch winter tyres. Not cheap.
23-inch?
Yep.
God, yeah, they are huge.
Single tyre, 4 figures. 2 of them. I was not a happy bunny that week. No, the Purosangue, I'm super lucky to have a really early car. I had an FF and I've had 2 Lassos, and I drove them all loads. So I did more than 10,000 miles in all 3 of them. Well, each. So Ferrari let me have a really early allocation for this, I guess because they knew that I would take it, and it's a month old and it's got 3,500 on it now. so it's doing what it should do. And what this is, which people don't understand, everybody has their mind that it must be an SUV, right? The idea is, looks like an SUV, it must be an SUV. What it is like an 812 that just happens to have extra seats. It's literally like an 812 Superfast that just happens to have more practicality. It drives like that, it feels like that, its weight balance is like that, the engine sits right back behind the front wheels. Yeah, I love this thing. I really love this thing.
It's a lot better looking. It's a lot sleeker and lower and longer than in the pictures.
It's just not as big in person as you think it is. It's, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend it's a small car, but it's not like if you put a traditionally big SUV next to it, this thing looks tiny.
of course, we've got an F1 car, and that is a topic close to our heart. We literally just today released a video where our friend has bought a Formula 1 car, 2001 BAR Honda.
Sweet.
Put a V10 in it, and it's getting race prepped so that he can drive it at the Historics at Silverstone. So that video actually just came out today.
Which car that is. That's cool.
Look in our list of videos, you'll find it if you haven't seen it already. But yes, so we were there the other day and they were race prepping F1 cars, loads of them. But this is very cool, and this had a bit of a story as well, didn't it?
It's not a running F1 car, it's a show car. It's the show car from 1997, the FW19, which was the last year Williams won the Formula 1 World Championship, Villeneuve at the wheel. When I took possession of it, we didn't actually know really what it was. It was a simulator in a truck. So it was like, do you want this kind of Formula car thing that was a simulator? We started peeling off the wrap that had been on it, that had been used for some promotional stuff, and basically with the help of the internet worked out what it actually was. And what it turns out is to be a full legit 97 tub. We've got 98 suspension, we've got wheels that were run in 98. Actually, sorry, the suspension's 99. It had been painted as the original Rothmans that you see here, then it had Winfield over the top, then it had BMW Compact over the top of that. So we were kind of like scratching away and seeing the different layers underneath. So I had it repainted, went up to TDF to do a lot of work to basically make it look pretty. You know, it's not a car that will ever run, but you can sit in it and just make noises and pretend you're driving. But
That's where we were the other day,
Yeah.
TDF.
I figured from what you were just,
Yeah.
as soon as you described the car, like I said, I'm like, I know which car that is. But, you know, for me, this was the era I started watching F1. I followed it obviously very closely since, but like the first memories I have of watching any F1, I was 10 years old or 9 years old in that season. So that's about as far back as I go watching it with my dad. So when this came up, I was like, wouldn't mind having that in the garage. Every cool garage needs a race car, like just to look at and be cool. And then the last of my cars is the Ford GT, the flagship Shmeemobile, right? It's the car that's been the most on my channels, the car I've probably done the most with over time, the car I'm most proud of because of, I think if you rewind back to when this was introduced, it was launched in January 2015, and I went to the event in Detroit where they presented it to the world. And at the time, I'm like, for some perspective, you know, I've just bought my used 12C. I've just spent a little over 100,000 on my, or financed a little over 100,000 on my 12C. The idea of a car at this price point was like the dream, but how could that ever happen? And then, you know, fast forward a couple of years, and I managed to get an allocation for it in the first batch. So I see it like as almost a physical representation of the Shmee 150 channel, like to have been in the position both to be able to get the allocation, but also to be able to buy the car like this. And that was the first and most special of these kind of cars. I mean, it's true kind of what people assume, that once you've owned so many cars, it's nowhere nearly as exciting as the first time. Your first car is the most exciting car you ever own, like completely. Your first supercar is a pretty big moment as well. And this for me was my first, let's say, you know, I know it's a supercar, not a hypercar, but the first that felt even more than that. The story behind it looks.
Plus, it's a hypercar. It's got that I know it's not got, so it doesn't have a V12 or it doesn't, but it's got the look and the technology, and you know.
It's an interesting, the topic of hypercar is an interesting one, because right, you have sports cars, supercars, hypercars, mega cars, and ultra cars might come down the line. And there's no definition per se, it's a combination of price, performance, exclusivity, usability, you know, all of these different factors that come together. And it means a different thing to each different person. But for me, it's a car with an amazing story, the wind back to Le Mans. It's a car that was, like I say, difficult to get an allocation for. I mean, when this launched in the United States, obviously where they were primarily sold, it was a $500,000 car, and they were trading second-hand, you know, delivery mileage for $2 million because you couldn't get one. And they were regularly trading at $2 million. It wasn't like one or two.
Wasn't there like a clause that they made you sign that you weren't allowed to resell it?
Yeah, but there are always ways around that.
Yeah, people were buying them with a company, selling the company. So then they had to find a way of blocking that as well.
There are always funky things with that, and there are some people who don't mind ruining their relationship with a brand to take a flip. Like I'm well aware that if I wanted to sell the Purosangue right now, I'd make a massive profit on it, but also I'm well aware that would mean my future SF90XX is cut. And I quite like the idea of that. So
especially as a business, I think your relationship with Ferrari is worth much more than whatever you'd make on that. So.
For me, I feel incredibly lucky that, you know, I've been able to grow a business that allows me to indulge in my passion, you know, to be able to spend my life driving these cars. So throwing that away would be stupid. It would literally destroy the point in working late every night to be able to buy these things in the first place. So no, for me, this is a really special car. So what's not here right now is my Aston GT8, which is an awesome thing. I've just got back from driving it up to Scotland and back. It's having an annual service. 7 years old, again, a car that I've got a big story with. The Zenvo, took it to the United States. It's back in Denmark at the moment. Every year, basically, they do a full kind of nut and bolt check, make sure it's all good. It's a hand-built, bespoke hypercar that has 1,360 horsepower, so keeping it in good shape is pretty important. What else is not here right now? I've got a Mustang Dark Horse in America, United States. This is also complicated when you start having cars in different countries. It's like, what's where? Is that it? Have I missed anything?
The Senna, yes.
I don't technically own the Senna anymore. I sold the Senna. Senna's gone.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So actually, I don't know when you're uploading this, but this might be a scoop. The Senna is actually gone. Oh, wow. It's been for sale for a short period, but now it's sold.
I don't know if I'm remembering correctly. One of the first times you don't have a cerulean blue McLaren.
Yes. Well, since I bought the Senna, for 5 years.
Because there was that period between the.
I've got plans. Don't worry. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay, and you heard that here first.
Everything is calculated. Everything is planned out a long time before.
One of the things I love about this and this story as well is I've seen your videos that you've done when you've gone over to America and like ridden in the race cars as well. I saw that one you did relatively recently.
The Mark IV.
Oh, that just looked like an experience.
The problem is when you go in something like the Ford GT Mark IV, or I rode at Laguna Seca in the Valkyrie AMR Pro, it destroys road cars for you. Like the experience of fast goes, because once you've cornered at 3G consistently around every corner of a track, all of a sudden a road car that can do like 1.5 or 1 3/4 is nothing. Like it feels very tame. Don't get me wrong, there's a different kind of fun that comes from driving to the track, then tracking, then going home. And driving something like the Senna, which I've done at Spa and at the Nürburgring and the Nürburgring GP, that experience has been crazy. Like it's almost one of those like selling it now, waiting to do it again in the future. To get that back in the future. But yeah, race cars, different weapon when it's on a racetrack.
Different weapon.
Right. So, did you enjoy your birthday surprise?
Yeah, it was a real surprise. It's awesome. Some of these cars I've seen in person before. All of them I've seen on the videos, but it's cool to see the place as well. But yeah, it was amazing. Thank you so much, Dad. Thanks, James. Thanks, Shmee, for organising this.
Now, what we're going to do is over on the JM and Friends channel, Damani's going to tell us which of these cars are his favourites and why. Hit the like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Sports and Touring or on JM and Friends.
Does that mean I have to get out?
Yeah.